What's going on, everybody? It is Saturday, still morning, just barely, and Dozer and I, we slept in a little bit today. It's kind of overcast, it's kind of breezy, it's a little bit humid, but the temperature's down. It actually would be a heck of a day to get out in the woods, so we might do that yet today. But we've got some chores to do, some grocery shopping. So right now, this morning, we're just hanging around the house, and I'm doing a little work on the patio garden. And yesterday we were out doing some foraging, brought home some Smilex. With the roads drying up and trails drying up, I'll probably head out this weekend and look for some something to add into a tea, because like I said, I'm getting a little bit low. But this morning is kind of harvest and rearrange on the patio garden. And it's been a while since I did an update on that, so let me take you around and show you what's going on. And we're in early March here, so I'm getting things planted and getting things ready to go. It's only going to get warmer, so I'll show you what I've got going on. All right, the greenhouse is kind of quiet right now, or the nursery, or whatever we want to call it. The shelf with the lights, but we do have cucumbers going right now. I've got a couple different kinds. I've got lemon cucumbers going, and I've got some regular cucumbers going. There's also Armenian cucumbers that are started. So we're going to get some of these going on some of the trellises on the patio. I've got peas going there right now, and I'll let the peas grow up, and then the cucumbers should come behind them. I've got some tomatoes started. These are they're a bush tomato. So I just do not have luck with tomatoes, but I'm an optimist, so I keep trying. Dinosaur kale is started, and weeds, basically, wild spinach. And so that's just starting. I took wild spinach, or lamb's quarter it's called, and I've added it to some of my pots. It's a natural producer of nitrogen. It's also an edible, and it's something that you would forage in the woods. And so I'm growing that in the pots to produce some nitrogen into the soil and also produce a bushy edible. All right, so just outside the garage is our little outdoor patio. This is a little thin right now. I just pulled the pea plants that had been growing, and I've actually got several here that are drying out. If it'll hold still. And we'll go to seed. And then my trees are doing really well. This is the Jamaican plum tree. That's from the actual wild harvest last summer from the kayak. There's a video on YouTube on our channel from that, and that was the only tree that I got to go. And we've got some purple basil coming up in here, and that's a longan tree that is still looking nice and healthy. It's got some new growth on the top there. Got a little kale started in there, a little cucumber. These are eggplants, mini eggplants. Looks like there's about 3 of them in there ready to harvest. This is another one of the longan trees. That one is doing really nice. It's got some odd coloration on the leaves, so it is struggling with something, but it continues to grow upwards. So we're going to keep letting it do what it does and see what happens. The lemon tree hasn't done anything. It did finally grow a little bit up top, but it's not really growing out or tall like I had hoped. However, it just recently started to form these little buds all over it. So I'm not sure what it's planning on doing, but I'm excited to find out. And then we've got cucumbers going down there. We've got another eggplant going to town here. It's got one down on the bottom that's coming on, and some more that are just starting. Little cucumber there. I just harvested the mustard greens, and I'll show you that in a few minutes on the other patio. They just keep producing. That's, I would say, the best green that I've planted out here. I've harvested it 4, 5, 6 times, and it gives me a week's worth of greens. I use them in wraps. I cut them up and use them in cooking. They're versatile. I like the flavor of them, so it works out really well, and they just keep producing. Over here we've got some sweet potatoes. They are just starting to put on some new growth there. So we're going to see, these are actually shoots I cut from the others. So we'll see what they do. And this one is a store-bought tomato, but he's actually producing some flowers. So I'm kind of hoping that he'll come around and maybe give us a few tomatoes. And then some little kales down there along the bottom. So fairly thin now. Kind of deciding what I'm going to do out here, because I use these bigger pots and produce greens. You can see here I've got the lamb's quarter coming up. So I may just leave this and let that lamb's quarter grow in, because again, that's wild spinach, so that's a great edible. But I haven't quite decided. All right, we'll go up to the top patio. Well, you can see we'll work around the new addition to the patio, my hammock. This one is one that I had out the other day in the woods for the day camp, and I mentioned it still smells like camp smoke from, that would be from Alaska, so that's, 2 years ago. That was on a beach in Alaska for 5 days, and the camp smell, it was put in a bag, and I must have forgot to take it out and air it, because it still smells like that camp smoke. So we're leaving it out here, and it's actually becoming a popular addition, especially with the teenage daughter and I. So we'll see if it survives or not. But you can see here on the patio, this is also pretty thin. The Malabar spinach is gone. The loofahs are gone. The loofah will probably come back. I did actually get a couple sponges from that, and I did actually get one to eat. And it was only one plant in a small pot, so I'll probably bring him back, but it won't be until it gets a little hotter, because I'm going to grow the peas and the cucumbers while the temperatures are a little bit cooler. And so you can see that I've got snow peas started here, and they are climbing up the trellis. I've got them in the small pots to climb up along the railings. I just harvested these mustard greens. Again, the mustard greens continue to produce. And I've got the collard greens. We keep those a pretty much steady growth of those around. These are the original basils, regular basil and mint, and then purple basil. They are still going. I mean, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a while, so they continue to go. I like it. A couple of the original moringa trees, they're still here. They're just starting to put on new growth. And of course, peas along there. More collard greens, rosemary. Let's get around the hammock. This is one of the nicest baskets. That's one of the original longan trees. Again, these are planted from the seeds from some fruit that we were given that grew locally, and that tree is doing very well. It's super healthy, and you can see the difference in the health between a lone tree and one that's in this environment of other plants. Now, this is all edible lettuce, and it's made a beautiful little plant. I'm not harvesting it because it looks so nice, but some of it's getting past time, so I'll probably harvest it today and I'll use it this week. Another one of the original moringa trees. He has just put on new growth. He sat pretty bare for a while and has woken up and is starting to produce new growth. We've got some peppers here. I don't remember what kind they are. These are Carmen Italian. Yep, these are Carmen Italians. You can see there's some peppers, nice sized peppers going. There's a big one. There's a little one inside. This one is just starting to flower. It hasn't produced any peppers yet. More peas. Again, they're climbing up the trellis. The Malabar spinach is gone. Some beautiful collards. They're loving this dark corner over here. You can see the coloration on them. And there's spearmint in the back, regular mint on the corner. And then these are some of the basil that we planted. These were some basils we planted that didn't do anything for a long time and are finally coming back. More collard greens, a few more peas. And so again, it's still producing. I'm harvesting today. So this is today's harvest of the greens. So there's some lettuce there. These are all mustard greens. And these leaves, you can see, according to, based on my large hands, that these are just huge. And they're not the biggest I've gotten. This is a mix of small mustard, that's from those smaller plants, and collard greens, so I'll use that for cooking during the week. And of course the mustard greens, again, wraps or cooking. And then I don't have any microgreens going currently, except for these. So this is a little, oops, sorry about that. This is a little countertop tray. Basically, it's just a little disc that goes underneath a pot, but it works perfectly. It's a great size. You can see I've harvested that a couple times already, so there's been a couple meals. This morning I had that. I had tacos this morning for breakfast, and I added the sunflowers to them. You can see that the sunflowers have actually grown beyond where they should be to be harvested. They've got more than their original true leaves, and they're getting a little fuzzy. You know, getting little hairs on the stems, so they're really growing beyond the microgreen stage. And so I'm going to go ahead and harvest these today, just so they stop growing. The problem with sunflower microgreens is they are, the good thing is they are one of my favorites. They're firm, they're great tasting, they got kind of a nutty flavor to them. They're just absolutely wonderful for a microgreen. The problem is if I harvest pea shoots, those things will last a week in the refrigerator. These sunflower microgreens, they'll last a couple days, and then they wilt up to a point where, you know, nobody really wants to eat them. So you have to use them fast. So what I'm doing is I'm moving to these smaller trays and growing enough for 2 or 3 days of harvest, and then I'll plant another batch, you know, 3 or 4 days later, so that after I harvest this, another batch will come into play. So I haven't started doing that yet, but that's my plan. Move to the smaller trays, you know, spread them out about 4 days apart on the plantings, so that when I'm done harvesting these, I've got another batch coming in. But really enjoying the sunflower microgreens. So that's the patio update. The cucumbers will go in the trellises. Hopefully they'll climb right on up. The peas, I'm hoping, will fill out the rail. And once the peas are done, the cucumbers should come in behind them. Once the cucumbers start to die off, or actually while they're producing, I will add the loofahs back in so that they can fall up. Because the loofahs, I really like the flowering that they do. They have big, bright yellow flowers, make for a pretty vine. And then they produce the young edible loofahs and then the sponges later. So that's the patio update. That's what we're working on today. You can see it's kind of overcast, so good day for that. And then maybe later we'll get out and do a little tea harvesting in the woods. So hopefully next time you see me, I'll be out doing something wild.